Lesson 8-4 talks more about scatter plots and patterns that you can see in scatter plots and what it shows. In example 1, in the previous lesson, we learned about scatter plots and the trends in bivariate data. That's 2 variables. When you look at a scatter plot, you should ask yourself the following questions. Does it look like there's a relationship between the 2 variables used to make the scatter plot? That's number 1. If there's a relationship, does it appear to be linear, straight line? And if it appears to be linear, is it positive or negative? So positive would look like this, and negative would look downhill. So those are the kinds of the 2 relationships we've talked about. Question 36, take a look at the following 5 scatter plots, answer the 3 questions for each one. Is there a relationship? There looks like there appears to be. Does it look to be linear? Yes. If I had to draw a line through these points, it looks something like this, which is a straight line, which also makes it a negative relationship. So that's pretty straightforward. On the next page, question 37. So if I could draw a line through these, what would it look like? It looks something like this, right through the middle, kind of. Is there a relationship? Yes. Is it linear? This looks like it is. In this case, this looks like it's positive because it's going up. Question 38 is kind of scrambled everywhere, so there is no relationship for this one. Does it appear to be linear? That's not really applicable because it's not a relationship, and positive or negative is also not applicable because that doesn't have a relationship either. Question 39 and 40, I'd like you to try to see, well, we'll talk about 39. I'd like you to try 40. 39, there kind of looks like a relationship here. If I had to draw the line, I would guess it would look like this, because that's kind of the way the dots are going. So this is not linear. This is more of like a parabola, which we talked about last unit. And positive or negative, that's not applicable because it's not linear. Number 40, I'm going to leave that one for you to try. I would think there's more than one answer for number 40. So give it a shot, and as long as you can be able to explain why you chose it, it would probably be acceptable. 41, based on the scatter plot of the data on the weight of pounds and the fuel efficiency in miles per gallon for 13 cars, using the questions at the beginning of the lesson as a guide, write a few sentences describing any possible relationship between X and Y. So in this case, is there a relationship? Yes. And it's a negative relationship. So there is a negative relationship between weight of a car and fuel efficiency. I know it says a few sentences. I just want to write the general gist of what it shows. For question 42, it talks about dollars and the quality rating for bike helmets. In this case, there doesn't really look like there's a relationship. It's kind of scattered points everywhere. So for this question, I would probably say there doesn't appear to be a relationship between quality crossed. And the reason being that the points are randomly scattered. Not really a trend to them or a pattern. So the points are randomly scattered with no apparent pattern. So the next page, question 43 and 44, if you wouldn't mind just jotting down what you think there is for those two. And then it goes on to talk about clusters and outliers. Clusters are where you have a cloud of points. Sometimes there are two or more distinct clouds. They're called clusters. And when we investigate these clusters, it might tell us something useful about the data. An outlier is a point that's way far away from everything else. It could be too high, could be too low. For example, in this one here, this talks about a group of elk that were studied, Rocky Mountain elk, and their chest girth, which is the size of their chest, pretty much, around, and their weight. And you'll notice, for the first part, you notice any point in the scatter plot of the elk versus that might be described as an outlier? I would say there's one. This guy down here is not really with the rest. The rest are kind of like clumped together. So about 96 centimeters. Looks like it is not near any others. So that would be called an outlier. If you identified an outlier in exercise 10, write a sentence describing how this data observation differs from the others in this data set. I would say that this point is much smaller than the rest. So whether that point was a newborn baby, maybe, or a runt of a litter, might be an explanation of why. Do you notice any clusters? If so, how would you distinguish between the clusters in terms of chest girth? Can you think of a reason why these might have occurred? In here, there's kind of three groups. We have this group here, this group here, and this group here. It's kind of like three clusters. Now I know looking at this and kind of coming up with a reason why probably is a little challenging. These three groups might be like the biggest group up here. They weigh the most, they're the biggest size. These might be like male elk. And the middle group here, they're bigger than the other group, but they're smaller than males. So these are probably the female elk as compared to the males. This group over here is smaller than the females. This might be the young elk. So a year old, 2 years old. That could be a possible reason for their size compared to all the rest. So we're going to do some more work with this and look at scatter plots and patterns and see if we can figure out what some differences are. Just try a few questions, bring them to class.